Thank you. I have some questions. The first is, how did the design improve over the duration of the pilot along the Yonge Street corridor?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. So Council, at the time when the pilot was extended, directed that staff look at every single intersection along the Yonge Street corridor for the pilot area for opportunities to improve traffic flow and changes to intersections for either flow or safety. Some of the things we did were the installation of left turn lanes at 3 intersections. Roxborough has been mentioned, Jakes, Farnham, and Shaftesbury. We installed 13 locations of enhanced loading markings, new side street loading at 2 locations, installation of slow markings for people cycling at 3 locations where the speed of cyclists was a concern, pavement markings to highlight hydrant locations, implementation of signal timing changes at 19 signalized intersections to improve flow, implementation of leading pedestrian intervals to improve safety, removal of a second southbound lane between Merton Street and Lawton, which improved opportunities for parking and loading, and we adjusted planters and pruning of grasses and such to improve sight lines at some of the key access intersections where the landlocked street concerns were being investigated. And then if the recommendation goes through today, there'll still be some detailed design work that will happen. Does that have opportunity for you to have further improvements along the corridor? Yes, Councillor. If there was a approval of the project in a permanent fashion, we would be able to design more permanent, robust materials to have longevity and improve both safety and operations on the long-term basis. There's been some comments about the width of the corridor. Could you just speak to that and how you feel your design is still has accommodated safety despite the narrowness of the corridor? The corridor is 20 meters in right-of-way, so that is from building face to building face within the city's land. But the pavement width itself does vary, with the most narrow part being about 12.8. We certainly do have some constrained segments, and we are trying to make sure we serve the various needs of both businesses who would like loading space, cafes, space for the safe cycling facilities, and of course, we meet our minimum widths in all facilities, including the width of bike lanes or as per minimum or more when we can provide it, as well as the widths of the turn lanes and vehicular lanes on the corridor, which meet the standards. And in the development of your recommendation before us today, have you had consultation with the TTC, EMS, and Toronto Fire such that they're satisfied with the design and the design improvements that have happened, and are they comfortable with this recommendation? I'll let TTC speak for themselves. I see that we have a representative from TTC on the screen, and we've heard from fire and paramedic services already in terms of the impact on the corridor and their acceptance. Okay. Sorry, TTC, and maybe also if you could just speak to, there was some concerns around buses in the future.
Thank you for the question through the chair. We have worked with the city quite closely on the development of the bike lanes and the improvements along Yonge Street. We did have concerns last year, as were reflected in the report last year, but we worked together and we've resolved those concerns. The data we have since last summer shows that the increased travel time on our shuttle buses for our customers is very marginal over before the bike lanes were introduced. And so we are satisfied with the operation of the corridor as it pertains to particularly the subway shuttle buses.
Okay, that's it for time on me too. Is there questions, second round of questions, anyone? Oh. Okay, I have a couple more questions if you will approve a second round of questions. Oh.
Let's get on with it.
Okay, sorry, a couple other questions. Yeah, the vice chair is tough. Can you just comment on what is planned north and south of the corridor? There's comments around, total connectivity in the area and when we may be seeing some of that.
Thanks, Councillor. So as part of the 22 to 2024 near-term implementation plan, Council has directed us to undertake a study of a potential northerly extension, but to look also at Duplex Avenue as a potential corridor instead. So we'll be starting that study sometime in 2024 to compare a potential extension further north along those 2 corridors. And towards the south, a design for Yonge Street between Queen and Carlton, so not quite up to Bloor, was part of the Young Tomorrow study approved by Council in February 21 for future implementation. And there's a next phase planned as a municipal class environmental assessment for Yonge Street between Carlton and Bloor to look at opportunities to improve pedestrian space in conjunction with water main work and the massive amount of redevelopment that's happening in that part of the corridor. So there certainly are works looking at both north and south of the corridor in the upcoming term.
Okay, thank you. I have no other questions. Other questions?